Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Dream, and you are here for a sub podcast of the It's All Good Show. And this sub podcast is all about EESystem Center owners. And they're all over the world now, and they are some of the most amazing people I've ever met. The EE system is the energy enhancement system, which was played a key role in my own healing from back-to-back strokes. And so I know all about this firsthand, and I've personally visited over 38 EE system centers all over the country. Today, we have a very special interview with Deanna Morae, and she is with ReZENergize. I just love the name. I absolutely love the name. I'm going to talk to you about where the name came from. She's in Indianapolis, Indiana, and she's a very special EE System Center owner, and she's all heart, and she's just out there doing good stuff. Welcome to the It's All Good Show, Deanna.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
This is really fun. You and I have, we were just reminding each other that we met last year in Dallas, and we've had communication, and we tried to come to your center, and just logistics didn't quite work out. But you're a treat, and in the process of our conversations and everything, I've gotten to know you a bit and gotten to know your story, which I'm really impressed with. But before we get to all of that and the background, I want to know, how did you first find out about EE System?
A friend of mine knew that I was really struggling with long haul COVID and some other issues that I was just really couldn't find any answers for. And he sent me a video and said, "Hey, check this out." And I watched the video. And the first thing that I did was look for a center that was as close to me as possible. That's what everybody does, right?
Right.
And I found one that was in Lexington, Kentucky. And I begged my husband, I said, "Can we spend our vacation time and our vacation money going to this place to see if it'll help me?" Because the long haul COVID that I was experiencing was very debilitating, and I had had it for 6 months. It was every joint, every muscle, every bone in my body ached just to move, just to get out of a chair. My husband would come and try to help lift me up because it was so painful. And the doctors were saying there was no such thing as long haul COVID. We don't know what you're talking about. And maybe if there is such a thing, it'll clear up in a year. So just go home and hold it together for another 6 months. And that being the only answer, I wasn't satisfied with that. And so we went down to Lexington, Kentucky, and surprise, surprise, after the first 2 hours, when my husband came to pick me up and lift me up out of the chair, I popped up like toast. I was 50% better in 2 hours. That's the kind of miracle that I experienced.
That is, I love those initial miracle stories, because it's that thing where all of a sudden, right there in that moment, this is real. And most of us in that moment, it's like, can't really explain, like how exactly this happened or whatever, but this is absolutely real. And then the process begins. And so how long was it between that and when you opened in January of 2023?
Yeah, January 22, I think, right?
Okay.
Because we've been open, no, 23, you're right, because we've been open 2 years.
Right, right. And
Right.
so from the time you had the experience until you opened, how long was that process?
Probably not almost 6 months, about 6 months, because it took them time for them, because there was a backlog waiting for systems to go out because they had started to get a lot of orders.
Now you're in Indianapolis, Indiana, and your setup with you have a 24 unit EE system,
Yes, we do.
and your setup is somewhat unique in the EE system world. Tell us a little bit about how things are set up there for you.
Well, we decided to actually install the system in a residential setting and on 2 acres. So it's in half of a house so that we can manage the need of all of our guests. We're always here. And so, but I'll tell you, the thing was that it became such a blessing for us to put it in a residential setting because we looked and looked and looked at all the commercial real estate, and all the commercial real estate had so much noise. It was so, next door they're having a lunch party and the shipments is coming down the hall and there's a bunch of people leaving and laughing and it was just too noisy. Oh, and now there's the landscaping and all of the repaving of the driveway, and we couldn't control any of that. And we found that that wasn't it wasn't conducive to relaxing, restoring, and repairing. So when we figured out that this was the best setting, people come here and they're like, it's so quiet here. And I'm like, that was the mission. That was the goal all along.
It's fabulous. So you're right there in Indianapolis, and yet it's almost like you're a world away. Um,
Absolutely.
and I love that. Now, I mentioned your name, ReZENergize, and I mean, looking at it, it's really great because it's energize is in there, and then rezen. I just get a kick out of your name, and I think it's great. All the centers have creative names and things that they've been drawn to. Yours is particularly fun. How did you come up with this name?
We really worked hard at that. But what we thought about was it's re-energize, but we're just going to give you a little zen right there in the middle.
It's so perfect. And your other like tagline almost is relax, refocus, restore. And it's just like, and then hearing that it's on this 2 acres and there's a certain grounded energy in having it as part of your home base as it actually is that it's just it's a different kind of energetic than being in a commercial space where you've got other businesses right around you and everything like that. And I haven't been to your place. I absolutely love Indianapolis, and so I know one day we will get to visit you. Now, you've been open for over 2 years,
Mhm.
and it's while people do know about EE system, it's not like a full blown thing where it's everyone's talking about it or anything like that. But you've had a fair number of clients and everything come in. Talk to us about some of the testimonials, some of the things
Oh,
that
yeah.
you've seen firsthand, and then also no one's been in your system more than you have. And so maybe an expanded testimonial of after that first experience in Kentucky, then where has it gone for you and for your members' clients?
Oh, sure thing. I tell you this, the miracles that we've seen here are they're just exciting, right? They're so rewarding to me because to me, the value, the joy that I get from doing this is what we say to people is our mission statement is to relieve suffering. Here's what we say. A lot of people have ideas about how to bring more love into the community. And our idea is that you relieve suffering because suffering people can be harder to love. And people who are suffering don't always have as much love to give because there's so much of their energy that's distracted by their suffering. So if we just relieve suffering, the love flows automatically. And that's what we love about what we do. We had a gentleman come here who has diabetes, and he did an overnight. And when he left here, he had to lower his insulin by 10 units a day. And he was shocked. He didn't know what to do because his pancreas just started working better. That's There was nothing else that he changed. So you look at that and you're like, the next day you're coming out of here, and now all of a sudden we had another woman come here who had diabetes who took her, she had a snack, she had taken her insulin, all of that. She came in for her 2 hours. Before she was done with the 2 hours, her sugar had started to drop and she had to get a snack because her pancreas had started to work better while she was here. She too was amazed. We had another woman come who had incontinence issues, and she came for an overnight, and she almost didn't want to tell me, but her friend, because it was just embarrassing, but her friend said, no, you have to tell her because it helps her to know what's possible. She left here and hasn't had problems with her incontinence since. We have another woman who came who had neuropathy, and she had had it for years from the knees down. She was in a lot of pain all the time. She came for a 2 hour session and she didn't have her neuropathy anymore. And her family was like, what did you do? She actually came back and brought some of her family because they could not believe what she did was just sit in a room with some computer screens. And she didn't have neuropathy anymore, but she was happy. She was so happy about it. She told me all about it. That's just a couple of the things that we've seen. We had another woman come for an overnight, and her hair had been falling out. And in the shower, she was like, my hair's falling out. She came for an overnight and that stopped. We've had people come for overnights and be so recharged that even if sometimes they didn't sleep a lot, and it didn't even matter. They were so recharged, their entire day was fabulous, and they had all the energy, and they thought they would be tired, and they weren't tired at all because they were recharged by what was happening in the center. That's just a couple of them. We had another woman who had had eye surgery, and her eyes were not healing properly. She was having to wear her sunglasses all the time. Weeks had gone by, and she talked to the doctor, and she said, why am I still having the sunglasses? You said it would only be a couple of days of light sensitivity and I'd be back to normal. He said, sometimes it just doesn't work that way for some people. She came for an overnight. She left here, and the next day she forgot to put her sunglasses on because she wasn't having any more light sensitivity.
I love this. I have to say something. I have to point something out. Anyone that's watching this, once we post it, is going to see it. You, as you're speaking about the testimonials, there's this glow that comes over you, and it is so absolutely noticeable. And to me, it just reinforces that you love what you do, and it's these testimonials. I say I'm the proof in the pudding guy, and testimonials are the proof in the pudding. And I see it in your energy field that it's continues to stoke the fire of you being in service to people. Now, we don't have to go deep into your story, but you we all come from a past that needs healing. I mean, I have never met a person that doesn't have something in their background, inner child work, this, that, or the other, PTSD from this or that, that needs healing.
I agree.
You're in that, you recognize that, and I know from talking with you that it's one of the reasons that you really you wanted your own healing. And when I just talk to us about it, because in just passing conversations with you, what I've picked up on is so beautiful about what drives you and what you've seen in yourself, and seeing it in you, you know that it's available for so many others.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've had a pretty rough go of it, in terms of childhood, you know, difficulties and struggles. I have complex post-traumatic stress. I've had it for over 30 years. Before they even knew there was a name for it, I had it. And it was related to abuses that occurred when I was younger, a lot of different sexual abuse, physical violence, bullying at school, all of those kind of things, all at the same time. So it was a lot. And one of the things that I noticed with the very first session that I experienced in Lexington at ReZENergize was this lightness in my heart, this unexpected, inexplicable happiness where I just felt better. I just felt lighter. And I just thought, what is this? I almost felt like I had just met my husband and we just fell in love and we were on our first weekend away. And we've been together 25 years. I mean, there's no brand new thing about this. We're still in love, but it's not that brand new energy thing, but that's how happy that I felt that very first time. And we went back once a month, every month to Zenergy while we were waiting for our own system. And we would grab the babies and grab the old ladies and everybody goes. You know that song? And we took everybody with us that we could for an overnight once a month. And I just always noticed that there was this shift that was happening and that was helping. And I thought to myself, how many people are there that need this kind of support? This kind of support that doesn't even require talking about the trauma, talking about what happened to you, but just this shift that happens and is helping. How many people are there that could not have the resources to drive 4 hours, pay for the sessions, pay for a hotel, drive 4 hours back? There's got to be people like me who are struggling and suffering who can't afford all of that. We have to have one in Indianapolis so that we can make it available. And what we have at our center is, especially for women who have struggled with the similar kinds of abuses, we have a program where they can sign up with us and come twice a month for free. The same thing for veterans.
See, that's just amazing. That is, and this is what I picked up from you, in our very initial conversations was that another example of not sure exactly what's going on, but that thing where if it works for me, it can work for so many other people. And I didn't know that you made that available twice a month and everything. That's just it warms my heart, and it again speaks to the role that you and so many other owners have taken to step up in their community. And I often say that it's not easy to do this. I mean, first of all, you've got to come up with a way to afford the system itself.
Right.
But then that's kind of tip of the iceberg, because then beyond that, it's the dedication and the commitment that you make on a daily basis when you get up in the morning and this is what you're doing again today and holding space. And you're such a fine example of that. I really I honor that in you, and it's lovely to share your story. Now go ahead.
It gives, this opportunity, this work gives me an opportunity to use what I have learned on that pathway of those 30 years of trying to find because one of the things I try to tell people is there was no rock left unturned. And as I'm looking for my own healing in these last 30 years, how can I find my wellness, my hope, my healing on my own? And in that process, I learned so much about ACEs. If you haven't ever heard of it, you might find this interesting. Have you ever heard of the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study?
No.
Yes, it is worth looking into. It's only 10 questions. But what they found was Dr. Vincent Folletti sort of discovered all of this when he was working with Kaiser Permanente, and his only job was to figure out how to help their staff members lose weight, because they found that the heavier the staff members were, the more that they cost them in insurance and in expenses for their health. And so that was his job. And he did a whole program where they rolled out nutrition and they rolled out exercise and they rolled out all of the things to support people. And he found that specifically people who had all this extra weight were people that had had severe childhood adverse experiences. And what he found as a result of that study was, with only 10 questions, they found that consistently people who had had adverse childhood experiences that were unresolved, right? That's the point, is the unresolved part. Because if you can get through those childhood experiences and resolve them, They are no longer causing your body to break down. But what they found was so profound because he's the first one that really started to put together proof that showed that mental, emotional trauma, difficulty, and struggle will turn into physical body deterioration. They found that there was a huge consistency in shortening of lifespan according to how much trauma people had experienced. And so if you take those 10 question study and you have a 3 or 4, that's kind of normal. If you have a 5 or a 6 or a 7, they have found that consistently they have a much shorter lifespan. So when I'm looking at helping these women, I'm looking at this is a way to help you overcome that shortened lifespan as a result of the trauma that you've experienced, because you must resolve it or your body continues to hold the weight of that pain and carry it in different organs and in different bodies. For example, grief sits in the lungs. So the best question that I kind of always ask myself when people come in, if they're talking about having COPD or they're talking about having, reoccurring pneumonia, difficulties with asthma, those kinds of things, I always suggest, hey, have you looked into, grief, unresolved grief? Because I know a lady who specializes in grief. So then that's when I can make a referral out to somebody that can help, who's a professional at helping with grief. Now you've got the EE system that can help with reversing some of the damage. And you've got this person that can help you with the mental emotional component as well. And the EE system helps with the mental emotional component because of what it does with the reuptake of serotonin. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that study, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's impressive right there. That the fact that you can have a reduction in the reuptake of serotonin with no drugs or any other kind of influence, that is the most holistic approach to wellness that we can offer. I had somebody come in the other day and I asked him after I showed him around and showed him all of the equipment and explained it all. I said, so if you wanted to tell somebody about what it is I do, what would you say? And he said, holistic health meets technology. I was
Perfect.
like,
In
that's
a
fantastic,
nutshell, that's it.
right? In a nutshell, holistic health meets technology.
So I'd love to hear, I mean, as with every EESystem Center owner, you are in a position every day to explain what the energy enhancement system is, to have people understand. I would think that rarely anyone will contacts you and says, I know exactly what it does, I just want to book an appointment. They need a bit of an explanation. I'd love to hear how you describe it. How do you explain this to people?
Well, when people come here, I explain to them, I say, I know it seems very unusual, but all you have to do is sit down and take a rest because the field will do the rest. Because this field is created by having these signals, these frequencies, precision aligned to collide in the center of the room and create this physics event that's happening, this explosion of scalar waves. And they penetrate right through your body. And as they penetrate through your body, they interact with the crystalline structure inside the cell of the body, recharging those cells. When we recharge our cells and they have all the energy they need to operate optimally, that's when the body can repair and recover and restore and heal itself.
Right.
That's what it does. And all you have to do is, and I always tell people this, the best results, in my opinion and in my experience, come when you spend the first moments of your time in gratitude. Just count every blessing you can think of because somehow that gratitude really combines so well with the energy and the field that is being created in that room that you can direct that energy by starting out with thinking of everything you can think of to be grateful for.
I can feel your passion as you talk about this and what an asset you are in your community. Now, it's not just EE system that you offer. I know you've got Beamer and Brain Tap and the Biomat. Talk to us a little bit about those and maybe how the energy of the system amplifies these
Oh,
other
yeah.
modalities.
Oh, and you know what else we've even done? We've done something so exciting. We did acupuncture in the field. We had an acupuncturist come in and do group acupuncture, and everybody that it was so powerful and so profound to have the energy enhancement system in the room, and then the needles, placed so precision placed so that they're re-energizing and restoring the energy
Yep.
flow. It was amazing. And so we not only have the Beamer, which I think is it's a PEMF device, of course, that enhances blood flow by 30%. Well, when you've got 30% more blood flow, you've got 30% more nutrients going to all of the cells of the body, but you also have 30% more waste removal. Well, when the detox that you get from just being in the system is combined with the detox of being on the Beamer, now you've really got a supercharge of getting rid of the poisons, the toxins, and the things that are really holding us back from being healthy and well. So the
Love that.
Beamer is a wonderful combination. We also have the Brain Tap, and that brings you into that hypnotherapy state where you're also bringing in your own brain waves and your own state of being into the center to combine those energies. So that's why we think that those things are so powerful. We also have a biomat, which has the far infrared and the negative ions, which are awesome. Feels really good to be warm and toasty and, far infrared while you're also doing the energy enhancement system. And we also have a synergy device, but it's a device that we can actually target very specific areas. So if somebody's having trouble with a very specific area, I can bring those two things in, and I can focus their treatment for a little while they're in the energy enhancement system as well. And then
It,
we also do the Volara, right? So that we have an environment. The Volara does such a powerful job at cleansing and cleaning the air, right? That we have that in here at all times. So I'm never worried about somebody coming in who's sick, because I'm like, you're welcome. Come. You're sick? Come. Because we have the Volara, it kills 99.99% of all COVID virus, bacteria, etc. And it is doing that to the room. They guarantee it. I feel like that allows us to have an environment that's safe for everybody to come, even if somebody gets sick.
this is fabulous. It's obvious that your attention to detail and like kind of covering all your bases has been very important to you. Now, you have packages for people. You offer the overnights. Do you do community overnights or just the private overnights?
We do both. So people can come for a private overnight, or once a month, we have a group overnight. So anybody who wants to come can come, and they come for a discounted rate because it's not private.
Right, right. And how long is the overnight?
13 hours.
That is so great. You get 13 hours of the EE system. You get to just go into that, completely. It's one thing to do 2 hours. It's a whole nother thing to go in there and have your pillow and your blanket and whatever your comfort level is and just be like, okay, I'm taking it all in. And the overnights, I noticed when you were talking about the testimonials that so many of them involved people that had done overnights. And it makes sense because it's always been explained that the more hours you can get in the system in a shorter time span, the better it is. So you do an overnight and then three things and that three other sessions, and that's in 2 weeks. You've got it in a condensed time frame, all those hours.
Right, I agree. It's funny. I'm going to tell you one other funny story. We had a
Please.
gentleman who came in here who did an overnight, and he's very much a skeptic, right? He doesn't believe in anything. So I was surprised that he came at all. but he came for an overnight. And this was one of the most profound things that I had ever noticed. This gentleman, of course, he would never admit, that things had changed. But after he had been here for his overnight, he didn't just change physically, he changed mentally and emotionally because he's very self-directed. Whatever he needs and what his needs are most important. And, that's that. And only about a month later, something happened. And he's like, you need to call her. She's having a hard time. And he was directing his wife to make compassionate phone calls to her friends because they needed her. This was not the kind of insight I had ever seen out of this man in 20 years. So I saw a shift in his heart, not just his body. And I think that is also a profound effect of the EE system, is that we are not just changing physically. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, we went on a camping trip outside, RV camping trip, all of that. Came home, full-blown COVID, no sense of smell, nothing. Just was like, oh no. When I put Vicks Vapor Rub on my chest and I couldn't taste it or smell it, I knew something was completely wrong because you can taste Vicks Vapor Rub when you put it on your chest.
Right, right.
So I came home and the first thing that we did was we went into the system for an overnight, not being able to smell or taste anything. And I woke up the next day completely healed. I could taste everything. I could smell everything. And I was just shocked because I was like, wow, that is fast. So it's not just healing us physically. It's also got that capacity to help shift our souls and our hearts and our minds. And that's the part that I really am excited about, helping people understand. That's the part where I love what could happen in our community when we can really make that difference mentally, emotionally, physically, life path. When people start shifting in their life path, and those are no, oh, I have one thing I have to tell you.
Please.
We had a woman come here. It's been over a year now. We had a woman come here, and it was a gift from her husband because she wanted to come. It was a gift for her birthday, for her 40th birthday. And they had decided that they had been trying for 8 years to have a baby. And they had been trying for 8 years to have a baby, and it didn't work. And they had agreed that at 40 years old, they would give up trying and they would move on to doing other things in their life. And she came here for a 2-hour session. And the following week, she ended up pregnant after 8 years. She had a baby because of her opportunity here at the EE system. She had a baby.
That's an amazing testimonial right there. It's a great point that you bring up about not just getting us past, like, for you, your 2 hour experience, it had an effect on the long haul COVID, but you felt a lightness in your heart and in your being, and it's that testimonial to. And then you talked about it with ACEs and how everything's connected. The emotional body, the physical body, it's all connected. And so the EE system is not just for, clearing up things physically or helping your body get recharged so it can do the healing that it's made to do, but it's also recharging every aspect of your being to do behind the scenes, so to speak, the work that needs to be done. And it's great that you're focused on that and that you're focused on really being, as I said before, like that resource and assisting people when they come in, and I get that. And one thing I haven't even mentioned yet is you do some singing bowls when people first come in at the beginning of every session, and I'm just like, oh, just e-system owner after my own heart, of course. And it's you're not just like setting them in the chair and saying I'll be back in 2 hours or whatever. You're much more involved than that, and you play a beautiful role of not just the energy of the EE system, but it's very much the energy of Deanna having an impact on people also, because you know that that's we carry that. We each carry that.
Here's a funny story. I'll tell you a funny story.
Please.
When I got the singing bowls, I got them more so because it was a novelty and I knew that I had a business so that I could write them off to that business, et cetera. And there was a good reason to just have some that we could play periodically and what have you. And as a musician, I had always wanted to have an excuse to have singing bowls of my own, right? So I bought the singing bowls and I got them all unpacked. And the gentleman that works with me here, his name is Jay. He's a wonderful guy, but he's kind of a techno geek, right? He's a guy who teaches technology. He builds websites and he does branding and all of that stuff, right? So he's more of a geeky kind of guy. He's not a tree hugging hippie kind of guy, right?
Although nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. But I just am thinking to myself that he's not the kind of guy that's in the touchy-feely stuff, right? So when we sat down and I started to play the bowls, the first thing that he said was, I can feel that. And I'm like, what? He's like, I can feel those bowls. I can feel them. They're affecting me. I'm like, okay, you do it. You play them. So he played them for me and I sat down and I just chilled in the chair. And I could feel them just washing over me, just relaxing, the vibrations relaxing my whole body, because we got the 432 bowls, a set of 8 432 bowls. And I couldn't believe it. So then we started playing them for every session. And when I watched people, they could get to the third bowl and they would already be out, because the vibrations and the frequency, along with the EE system, just knocked them out. And so then they're there for their 2 hours, completely rested, completely relaxed, and it's making a difference. And I'm watching people respond to how the bowls, and we just had somebody come here yesterday, and he's just a young guy. He doesn't have any ailments or anything necessarily that he's looking to fix. And he said, I could just feel those vibrations, I guess is what you would say, or frequency, because he didn't really know how to articulate it. But he said he could feel them affecting his body and just making him sort of melt into the chair. And I was like, so the funniest part about becoming the person that is having singing bowls at the beginning of every session is that I didn't know sound healing was so powerful. It was just something I had to learn along the way. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did it by accident.
I love it. And I love that you have put into place all the things that you've learned along the way. And that to me is a really good system owner, center owner, is taking everything that's worked for you, everything that you've felt, the things that you've identified have an impact, and saying, hey, let's include this, let's do this. I hope people in your community really, I want this video to just get out there so people can really understand, and your energy comes across so pure and so vibrant, and you literally glow. I've just got to say it again. I got to point it out one more time. You literally glow as you're speaking about all this. And I think it's fabulous. We're near the end of our conversation. Is there anything we've had a very full conversation, but is there anything that we've left out, or anything else you want to focus on and share with us before we tie up the loose ends?
Not that I can think of, other than how grateful I am to not only have the equipment, how grateful I am that we have seen such amazing results. And the equipment
Yes.
When I first sat down and I sat down to when it first was installed and the installer was gone and it was time to sit down and just meditate for a moment. I sat down and I asked, I was like, oh, and I wonder if it has a name. And Zenora came straight up. Not that anything I ever thought of, but Zenora, a little bit of Zen, and the place that we're located is Nora.
I love it. You are the first system owner that has shared with me that the system has a name. I think that's even just more adding to the energy of being at your home, being on the 2 acres, being in a grounded energy, and here the system has its own name. And I just thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you do. I This is why I do these interviews, to get enlivened and inspired, and I didn't have to search for any of that with you. It's all on the surface. And what I know is that when people come to ReZENergize, that they're going to feel that same thing also. And you give it ever so freely. Thank you so much for being a guest on the It's All Good show, and look forward to seeing you again in person one day.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You're such a wonderful, warm host, and you've done such a lovely job. I appreciate you very much, and I do look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.